Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
So I'm wondering, have you ever thought that maybe you were a little psychic? Like you think about something and it happens, or you have a premonition, comes true. Phone's about to ring. You're like, yeah, I know who that is. You don't even have to look at a caller ID. Maybe you are psychic. Maybe you should talk to Danielle because she is a medium and also a mentor and helps people realize their psychic ability and walk them through it, teaches and instructs them. And she's with us here today. Danielle Anatra joins us. Welcome. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
I really do think that a lot of us have that fleeting thought, like, what is this? Is it intuition? Is it psychic ability, or is it a gut feeling, or could those all be kind of the same thing?
They're all similar. They all go hand in hand. They're all different animals, but yeah, I know I get so many people that come to me that like, I think I'm psychic, but I'm not sure, or I had a dream, or I had this happen, or I had that happen. And the truth is we could all tap in to that. We all have intuition. We all get that, like you talked about, that gut feeling. And we all have those like, maybe I shouldn't trust this person, maybe I should. Like that subtle thought or feeling or knowing that you have is your intuition. The thing that makes it more of a psychic experience is actually knowing, like you could say, you know what, she's not really in a great mood today. That's your intuition. But when you go a little deeper into it and you know why she's not in a good mood or the details behind it, though that's all your psychic experience. That's part of what you're experiencing on a psychic level. It's not something that's so black and white right in front of you, but it's something that you see so clearly without trying. So that's kind of the difference between using your intuition and then just taking it that step further and making it that psychic experience. So if you want, I'll go through a few things that people really, these are, there's so many different signs that you're psychic, and things happen to us and all kinds of experiences that we go through, but there are a few things that are big that almost everybody experiences or has, or comes to me because they're like, I think something else is going on, so I wanted to dive a little deeper into it, and that's
Yeah,
where we
please do,
start.
because this is
Okay.
one of those things that I think a lot of us think about. Like people have said to me, all different types,
Yeah.
astrologers, even psychics, like, you have some intuition. I'm like, I don't know,
Mhm.
whatever you say. I don't know what it is, you know.
It's a matter of listening to your intuition, because that's where we want to kick ourselves sometimes. Like this, sometimes I'm like, you feel something and then you don't do it, and you're like, oh, I know I should have did that,
Uh,
and I kicked myself a lot before I started to really understand like what was going on with me, and I started to, get into it a little more.
oh, so
So,
true. All right, before you dig in, is intuition pretty much the same thing as a gut feeling?
yeah, yeah, I could say yes. Yeah, you might get a feeling like I shouldn't do something, but you don't know why, but you're just like, I shouldn't do that. Or, my kids shouldn't go to that party tonight. I just feel like something's going to go on, like, so yeah, you can call it mother's intuition, they call it women's intuition, just that gut feeling,
Yep.
that people get. That's real, that exists. People separate that from intuition to psychic, but I feel like it all goes hand in hand.
Hmm. Interesting. All right.
Yeah.
Hit us up. What do you got?
I thought, okay. So the first one, you nailed it when you first started, talking. You said the phone's ringing, you know exactly who it is. You might say, oh, I'm waiting for this letter in the mail. I know it's going to come today, or I'm going to get good news today. It comes, and, you just know. You don't know how you know, but you just know certain things. So that would be the first time. You have a lot of those phenomenons that happen very often, and you'll see when it's time to really dive into it, you'll get a lot more of it in a closer amount of time, and not just like once a year or anything like that. You'll get a lot of that. When someone's lying to you, this one always comes in handy.
Hmm.
Did you ever talk to somebody and they're just like, oh no, I can't come to the party tonight because I don't feel good or I'm sick, and you're like, you're full of crap. Like you just you just kind of
Yeah.
know that they're lying to you. I never agreed with that. I always said, just be honest. Like, why are you gonna, lie to like salvage whatever you're trying to do? Just tell people the truth. But yeah,
Yep.
whether people like are emailing me or they text me, it's like you can kind of understand the text just the way they meant it. Like if they're trying to be funny and sarcastic, you understand that. If they're kind of being a jerk, you can understand that too. You can kind of see where they're coming from. So yeah, so you know when most of the time when people are lying to you. I know if somebody is like in my space, like I used to have, before I moved, I had a lot of drop-in company. I actually still do, but I have a lot of drop-in company all the time. And I'm familiar with my energy, my kids' energy, my husband's energy. I'm familiar with all that. My neighbors that drop in frequently, I'm familiar with all that energy. But sometimes I'll go to work and I come home and I'll be like, who was here today? Like, who stopped over? And my husband will be like, oh, so and so, blah, blah, blah. And I'll be like, okay, it's someone out of our, like, the norm that's like in our house during the week. I could just feel the shift in energy if I'm conscious enough when I get home, you
Wow.
know?
Wow.
Yeah.
So are you saying that you still feel the energy that's left over from somebody who dropped by when you weren't around?
Yeah. I mean,
Cool.
like, listen, if you're with your significant other, I remember I was doing I was just cleansing someone's house. I don't usually offer that, but it was a friend of mine. And I was staging her house and I went into her bathroom and I was just like, oh, I was like, you know, I just feel like, like icky energy, like right here. I said that it just needs to be cleared. I'm like, did you ever like a fight with someone or like, whatever? And she said, yeah, she goes, me and my husband had a fight this morning because I dropped something and it chipped the tub and she showed me the chip on the tub and he got mad at me and we were arguing right here. Like, wait, so like
Wow.
that energy gets, left over. It dissipates, it dissipates. But if you have like constant yelling in the house, constant anger towards one another, like that energy builds up. And, the best way I feel to get rid of energy like that is raising your vibration. Maybe if you feel like you have a lot of stagnant energy, I always tell people like move your furniture around, clean your house, like, get rid of that clutter under the bed or in the closet that you don't usually touch very often. Clean out that junk drawer, like move the energy around in the house a little bit, because when you do that and clean up, like if you're somebody who like has clutter building up, like clean up, because once you do that you just feel, you feel like your mind is a little more clear, and then the space around you is a little more clear. And I always tell people to do that because it really helps move the energy around and kind of clean it up a little bit.
I totally agree with you, and I've been feeling that. No joke.
Mhm.
And in my office, I'm on a quest of cleaning it up.
Yep,
Just what you said, because I
yep.
feel like the energy, things are, there were some changes. So I need
Mhm.
to push that out. But at the same time, Mercury retrograde starts today.
Yeah,
So right now I'm looking at drives backing up because
I
it's almost like a
know.
reminder. It's like time to back up things because, yeah, never
Yeah.
know.
Well, I always tell people like the first, well, what I believe the first like law of the universe really is order. Like if everything's not in order, it's like a snowball effect of
Yeah.
crap that just comes down on you, but you feel like you get overwhelmed, but if your space is cleaned up and your mind is cleaned up with your to-do list, like if you have a million things in your mind to do and it's making you anxious, write it down, like get your thoughts on paper, and that works in so many different ways. So the law of order is super
Uh,
important. If you have stuff going on, what's not in order? Where are you not peaceful? And I guarantee you it's cluttered or something, either
somebody
emotionally
told
or
me,
physically.
somebody told me who was psychic,
Hmm.
um, and very credible, like you,
Hmm.
said that if there's boxes around, things just piled up over here, you're
Hmm.
literally blocking the energy from flowing and
Flowing. Yeah, it's
get it out
true.
of there. Purge it out, clean it up, put
Hmm.
it someplace. So, yeah, to your point, if it
It's
feels weird,
absolutely true. And you know what? I just moved and I'm like, these boxes, I unpacked, I think faster than most people. Like I had to get everything in order. Like I'm very neat and I like everything in place. Like I have to make my bed every morning. Like it's just like that's your first accomplishment of the day.
mhm,
It's just something like if you don't do anything all day, make your bed. Like I just feel like, everyone likes getting into like a nice,
yeah,
like made up bed and it's one accomplishment that you had for the day. It's just so important to keep things in order. And some people work in their own chaos, and that's fine too.
Everybody's
If
different.
you're, yeah, I mean, you know what, listen, I know some people who, when they're reading, they need like complete silence, they need no distractions, they need to go. I have two children. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where I am, what I'm doing, but like, I'll be able to tap in. Like for me, the only time I feel like I have a hard time is when my kids are talking or I'm responsible for something that like I need to be keeping my eye on or something. And
Right.
that's when I can't give my full attention. I won't do readings. But everybody's very different, but we always work to, work through any
Well, you know
distraction. But
what? It's take the information and do whatever you want with it. So we just said, if you feel out of place, out of sorts, things are a little wonky, try cleaning up your place. It's
right.
not just peace of mind. Oh, it's clean now. No, it's an energy block
Mhm.
as well.
It is. Absolutely, it is. Um, Another thing, if you feel, a lot of people get this, you feel uneasy before like some kind of catastrophic event, like a major storm, or, you feel something coming, like an earthquake is coming, or things like that.
Hmm.
I know someone who, had children in one of the school shootings in the past few years. And she said to me, she's like, I woke up, she goes, I did not send my kids to school. She goes, I didn't know what was going to happen, but she goes, I just got that gut feeling that they shouldn't go to school. And she goes, I took off of work and I stayed
Wow.
home and I kept my kids home from school. And the shooting happened during the school. And it was, that whole thing of 9/11. I mean, how many people didn't go to work that day? You
Yeah.
know,
And why? And why?
mhm. And how many people did, but had the feeling, but didn't listen to it. It's
Hmm.
just, when we're conscious and we could hear things, we have to listen, but we also have to trust too that we're going to be at the right place at the right time. So if you're getting like a lot of roadblocks and you can't get to where you want to go, or you have to do something that maybe like you feel like maybe shouldn't do and you choose to do it, it's like I feel like spirit is going to put us in the right place at the right time if we just follow the signs. There's some people, they're like, well, why didn't they get that sign? Like, why didn't they listen to it? Why didn't their guides help them? We have to trust that there's a plan bigger than all of us, that right place, right time. It's important. Sometimes you don't see it right away, but you'll see it
But we don't,
later on.
to your point, Danielle. Okay, let's look at it something catastrophic like 9/11, where
Mhm.
some people, and how many times have you heard this? Yeah, just something told me not to
Yeah.
go to work today.
Oh
And
yeah.
then others will say, well, my loved one went and perished. Why didn't they get that sign? Why didn't they hear
Mhm.
that? Maybe they did, but they
Well,
didn't
it's
listen to
true.
it.
And let me tell you something too. I sat with probably over like 40, 50 families that passed in 9/11 in, my years of doing this. And every single family that I've sat with, they said that although this happened, they think back on it now. And they said, like, my father passed, but come to think of it, he hadn't talked to his brother in like 20 years and he made amends with his brother, or he got his
Wow.
will in place, or, he never had life insurance and then he got it like 3 weeks before or 2 months before it happened. So I find that when your soul knows that you're going to leave, you might not know consciously your physical body, but when your soul knows that it's time, you start tying up loose ends and you start getting things in order, because that's
Hmm.
an order. It goes right back to order where we talked about. But you start getting things in order and you really start tying off loose ends, maybe like, apologizing to someone maybe you should have apologized to, speaking to someone, or letting something go that maybe you've been holding on to. So a lot of times when the soul knows it's going to go, it will make amends
Wow.
in some way, if that soul is, they do it on a conscious or unconscious level, I don't know. But every single family that I spoke to, not, and I'm sure there are people who their loose ends aren't tied up or whatever, but every single person I spoke to, their family understood like why this happened. They didn't understand then, but they understand now, and they wish it was different,
Sure.
but they understand now. So I find that the right timing for a reading is important too. People always ask me, I'm just kind of spiraling into something else, but people always ask like, can you connect with people as soon as they pass? Can you, can you do this? Can you do that? And you know what? Some mediums you'll get a different answer.
Hmm.
But in my experience that I've had, I feel yes, you can connect with people immediately when they pass. I do feel like they go through a reflection period where they're not as active. But I do feel like you can because I have. And if people set up boundaries or they believe what they were told and said, oh, I can't connect with spirits as soon as they pass, if you believe that, you're not going to be able to. So it's going to be your truth. For me, I have done that before. And I also have had, it depends on each person. And people always say, like, when should I come? And I say, you should come whenever you're ready. It's not up to me to tell you when you're going to feel ready. Like, I had people come to me before the funeral. I've had people come to me less than 24 hours after somebody passed, you know, and and they were able to get a beautiful reading. But I had this one woman come to me, and she comes to me every year. So before she got there, I already knew that her mother had passed. Um, but when she came through, her mother didn't come into the reading. And she was with her sister, and she said, see, I told you. She goes, Mommy wasn't going to come through because she knows I'm mad at her for leaving. So, like, she kind of on the way
Mm.
there knew her mother wasn't going to come through, and she didn't come through. Like, I knew she passed because I had gotten friendly with this client, but her mother didn't step forward, and it's just that, and then 3 months later, she came back and she said, and she got a beautiful reading from her mother. And the reason for that was because she was able to kind of let go of this anger that she had. But then there's some people who come in who are so angry, but their person comes through, and that's how the healing happens. Everyone's different,
Yeah.
so, you can't, it's not one size fits all.
You can't stop somebody from wanting a reading, but would you
Right.
say, based on what you're saying and also based on what I've heard from others, that it's probably a good idea to wait a little bit of time after somebody passes?
It depends on you.
Okay.
It depends on you. That's how I feel. I just feel like sometimes people need time, and sometimes people want that. Let me just make sure they're okay. Let me just make sure, like, I could, communicate with them. Everyone needs something different. Like, it may be, one person might say, I really just need time. I need a little while before I go. Some people are just grieving too hard where they just can't even fathom like hearing the person's name for years. And some people, want that right away. I had someone who lost their boyfriend. I have, people who were murdered, and like the family is like, I need to get to the bottom of this. I want to know what happened. I want to know if I should pursue this case or if I have to do this. Some people want to know right away, what happened and want that communication. Every situation's different. So I never say never.
Mm.
And I never tell people, um, you know, this, that, and the other thing. I always just tell them, you have to do what's right for you. When you feel like you can hear everything that is going to come in, then that's a good time for you. If you feel like, this is something you need for closure, then come in. If this is something that you feel like you need to wait because you're just too sad and you're not going to take in everything, then wait. The truth is everyone, they're going to grieve forever, but they're just going to start grieving a little differently than they did. So
I know we diverted a little bit
it's
here,
okay.
and no, no,
I
no,
always
and we're going to get back to
Mm.
how you mentor people who believe they have psychic ability and help them along the way. But I'm kind of curious, Danielle, what is the hardest message that you ever had to deliver?
Mm, trying to think. There's the thing is, I have I used to cry a lot when I delivered messages,
I was
like
going to
all the
ask you. I
time.
was going to ask you that too.
I used to, because there are, you get your feelings get involved in it. And I learned to better, and I would still think about that reading time and time again after people lose children, I can't even tell you the sadness. that comes in where I was at a point where I'm like, I don't know if I can do this work. Like I was getting like overly, I was holding on to all of it. And I started really letting go. And I asked spirits to help me let go of the thoughts, feelings, and emotions that weren't mine. And once I started doing that, I stopped crying during readings and I actually started feeling a little like almost like heartless. Like, you could feel for somebody, but as soon as they leave, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go get a cup of coffee. Or it's like, how do you like just jump from something like
Yeah.
that to,
You shut
and
it
I don't
off.
know. Yeah, and I don't know, but it's not mine. And I learned to do that in my life too. Even if one of my kids are having a hard time, I used to be very involved in it. Like, and I would be over, like, how many parents do you know that are just like, oh my God, I can't believe they're going through this. I can't, and it's eating at them. But you can't be 100%. You can never be 100%, but you can't have that balance. If you don't have that balance, then you can't function properly either. And you're not doing the best that you can do for them. So I always say that 50% mark is like where you don't try to be 100% because you can't sustain that, and I always try to be at that 50% mark where it's like you kind of let go of what doesn't serve you, but you're put yourself in a place where you can help. There have been a lot of sad things that have happened, and everyone grieves so differently. The very sad things for me are people losing children, especially young babies. Um, that's always very sad for me. The saddest things that I seem to connect with are people who are in very difficult situations. I had a child, like early teens, working and taking care of their mother and their siblings because the father was abusive, and he like took the brunt of the father. And it's just, and I've had multiple situations like that where kids are just like stepping up and just working and doing things that like, someone our age should be doing, and just like, taken care of. So yeah, those are really sad to me when those situations happen where I see somebody not living the way I feel like, their age should be living. It's
And
very
is that
sad. Or
based on things that they've told you, or the message you get from spirit thinking that, oh, this is what's really going on over here. Whoa.
both.
Okay.
Both. Um, you know, I always will pick up on something in the reading. And, sometimes at the end of the reading, people will fill in like, oh, that made a lot of sense because
Yeah.
A, B, and C, so sometimes people will fill it in when the reading is over. And sometimes spirit will, if it's necessary during the reading, then spirit will fill it in during the reading because it's just if they know what I'm talking about, sometimes you don't want to open a wound either. So I always just trust spirit that they're going to give me what they need and they'll help me say it in a way where it's going to be well received. Like there's some people I'm so blunt and I'm just like, oh my God, I can't believe I just said that to them. But but that's the way they needed to hear it.
Has there been a time, I'm guessing there had to be, where you got something from spirit and you filtered, like, I'm not telling them. I'm
Um,
not gonna let that out.
I give what I get.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I give what I get. In the beginning, yes. In the beginning, yes. Because I was afraid to be wrong. When I first started, I was afraid to be wrong. And I was like, oh God, I don't want to make someone worried about something or whatever. But then I learned that if you just set very proper boundaries, that spirit's always going to have you back. And I'll give you an example.
Okay.
Um, so I was really working, this is years ago, and I'm really working on trusting, spirit and trusting. I always tell spirit, don't give me bad news unless it could be prevented from happening. Because there's no sense in knowing about it if it can't be prevented. If you can't do anything about it, there's no sense in worrying somebody. So I won't get stuff like that. So if
Okay.
somebody, has a diagnosis of something and they don't know about it yet, I'm not the bearer of bad news. Spirit's not going to give me that. They might tell me to tell them to go to the doctor and get something checked, but they're not going to tell me that something's wrong because it's not my place.
So it's almost
Um,
as if you went to the well from
mhm,
spirit, but it was the filtered water in the well. Like,
mhm,
like for example, let's say somebody passed, they're
mhm,
coming through, they did something pretty horrible, but nobody
mhm,
really knows about it and they kept it inside Maybe he was
That came
abusive,
out.
whatever.
Yep.
And that you got that from spirit. Would you pass that information on? Or based on what we're talking about, spirit filters it for you and it's only the usable information or the information that needs to be told?
They'll give me the information that needs to be told. And if it's something else, I won't receive it, only because that's how my boundaries are set up.
Got it.
Some people will see everything.
So we're in the middle of talking to Danielle, and this is how things happen. She just froze on the Zoom video. I don't know if she can hear us. This is more times than not when we talk to somebody with psychic ability. This is what happens. It's like the craziest thing. The video is locked up. If you're listening on this podcast, that's what's going on here. We'll try and get her back on, but I want to tell everybody it's Danielle Anatra, and her website is DanielleAnatra.com. That's what energy does. That's what spirit does. And we were just about finished with our podcast today, but
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.